Question number 11. If A equals 8, what is the value of, and then they give us this problem here. So everywhere you see an A, you're simply going to want to substitute 8. Now, order of operations says we need to do parentheses first, but there's nothing to simplify in these parentheses. So we need to take care of exponents next. 8 squared is 64. And now we can pretty much solve from left to right. We're going to multiply this, and then add that to it. So if you don't know what 4 times 64 is, well, then let's just do that over here to the right. 64 times 4. 256. Plus 3 times 8 plus 10. Now I'm going to stack these up so I can add them all together. For a final answer of 290. Okay, next, Sophia purchased a sofa for $530.40. The sofa is regularly priced at $624. What was the percent discount Sophia received on the sofa? This is how you're going to want to set this problem up. Original price minus discounted price, all divided by the original price. So let's subtract this numerator first. Now we need to add a couple of zeros up here. We begin subtracting. So we're left with 93.60 over 624. But I'm going to go ahead and divide, because that's what that pretty much means. 93.60 over 624 is 93.0 divided by 624. Now, 624 does not go into 9, does not go into 93, but it does go into 936. One time. Okay, if we start subtracting, $312, let's bring down the 0. Okay, now 624 goes into 3,120. Now here's what you can do. If you don't know how many times, well, you can just trial and error. Do this number times 2, and then do it times 3, and then times 4, and then times, or whatever. Start with either one of those numbers. And you want to get as close to as possible without going over. Well, if we were to multiply 624 by 5, we would get 3,120, meaning we've now solved the problem. 0.15 is the same thing as 15%. That is the discount here. The average of 5 consecutive numbers is 38. What is the smallest number? This is how you would need to set this question up. We have 5 numbers. X represents the first one. Well, if we added 1 to the first number, that would give us the next number because they're consecutive. So the next number must be the original plus 1. The number after that must be the original plus 2. The number after that must be the original plus 3, and so on and so on. Now, the way that we find the average of a group of numbers is you take however many numbers that there are in this set. There are 5 numbers. You add them all together and then divide by the amount of numbers. There's 5. And set it equal to whatever the average is. So what you want to do to start solving this problem is how many x's do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 x's. And then you add all of the integers. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. That's 10. All over 5, set it equal to 38. In order to solve this problem, let's multiply both sides of the equation by 5 so that we can free up the numerator. 38 times 5, what is that? Well, let's see. 38 times 5. Let me get rid of this now. 8 times 5, that's 40. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. To get 190. Now let's combine like terms. 5x is equal to 180. Divide both sides of this equation by 5. I'm running out of room here. X equals, let me think. I'm just doing division in my head now. 5 goes into 18 3 times. 18 minus 15, that would be 3 left over. 5 goes into 30 6 times. For a final answer of 36. Okay, 14. They give you this problem here and they want you to just simplify. Now we have the exact same base, so really we just need to look at our exponents here. And remember, what is the multiplication rule of exponents? We've already done one similar to this already. If we're multiplying exponents, we really add them. So you just simply need to add these fractions together. Now, lucky for us, they have the exact same denominator. Since they have the exact same denominator, you're only going to add the numerators. 7 plus 2 is 9. And then, of course, reduce if you can. 9 over 3, that simplifies to 3 for a final answer of 5 to the third power. Okay, looking at the next example, 15, they tell us the sum of 3 numbers is 45. If another number is added to these 3 numbers, the average of the 4 numbers is 20. What is the 4th number? Now try and not overcomplicate this by figuring out, well, I got to figure out what the 3 numbers are. You don't. They've told us most of what we need to know to solve this problem. The sum of the 3 numbers is 45. So if we had those 3 numbers added together, we would get 45. If we added another number to that, the average of them all would be 20. So we already have the 3 numbers here in some form added together. We're adding the 4th number. And remember, if we want to find the average of a group of numbers, add up all the numbers together and then divide by the amount of numbers in that group. So in order to solve this problem from here, let's multiply both sides by 4 so we can free up the denominator, or free up the numerator. (20 times 4, that's 80. And then subtract 45 from both sides. Oops, sorry, forgot to do this. I'm going to take that for a final answer of 35. Okay, for 16, David owed $8,240 after making 45 payments of $124 each. How much does he have left to pay? Well, let's first figure out, well, how much has he paid so far? So we're going to take 124 and multiply that by 45. So far we made payments of $5,580. So we're going to subtract that from the amount owed. For a final answer of $2,660. 17, what are the zeros of this function? Take a look at the function that it has given you and see if you notice anything that they have in common. They all have an x in common, so we're going to start by factoring out an x. Okay, now we're left with a trinomial. So number in front times number in back. These are all the factors of 6. We need the ones that add to get 5, so we're going to be using 2 and 3. Same signs, both positive. So I'm going to go ahead and use that shortcut that I showed you with the previous video. Okay, now all of these are factors. If we set them all equal to 0, starting with this one, we'd get x equals 0. Set them equal to 0 and solve, that is. X equals -2. X equals -3. Those are your answers for this problem. All right, looking at 18, what is the solution to the following systems of equations? Whenever you're dealing with the systems of equations, you're either going to use elimination or substitution most of the time. And usually, if it has a variable that is just all by itself, it doesn't have a number in front of it, you're going to use substitution. So we want to, I'm going to rearrange this problem here. I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides of the function, leaving me with y equals 9 minus 5x. So once again, I subtracted 5x here, subtracted 5x over here. This is what we're left with. Now that we have a variable that is isolated, we can substitute it here. So I'm going to start rearranging this problem. 10x minus, instead of 7 times y, we know what y is, so let's substitute that. And then let's start solving from left to right. -7 times 9 is -63. -7 times -5x is positive 35x. Okay, over here I can combine these like terms. On the left side of the equal sign, I can combine these like terms. That would get us 45x. And I would need to add this over here. So add 63 and bring it over here. Now, -18 plus 63 or 63 minus 18, either way, is going to give you 45. Divide both sides of the function by 45, x equals 1. Now that we know what x is, remember when we did this portion here? We can now take 1 and substitute it here, and that will give us the function or the answer for y. So y equals 9 minus 5 times 1. So y equals 4. To list that as an ordered pair, that's 1, 4. That's your final answer. All right, for number 19, in order to simplify this problem, one of the rules of math is we can't have imaginary numbers in the denominator. So we're going to multiply by, think of this as multiplying it by the opposite of it. The opposite of -4i is positive 4i. And if we're going to multiply the denominator by 4i, we have to multiply the numerator by 4i also. So let's start with the numerator. 4i times, now I'm multiplying all of this by 4i. So 4i times 4 is 16i. 4i times -3i is -12i squared. Over, now down here, -4 times +4, and -16i times I squared. Now it's important to remember that if we see I squared, we want to change that to -1 because that's what I squared represents. It's really -1. So let me simplify a little bit more. Okay, so let's simplify just a little bit further. All right, now notice we are fully, well, we've taken care of the i's as much as we possibly can. We just want to leave that I as I. Now that we've gotten to this point here, let's see if all of these numbers have a number in common, a number that goes into them all. And they do. They're all divisible by 4. So I want to divide all of these numbers by 4. Now, this right here is an acceptable answer But sometimes they may want you to simplify even further, which I believe this problem does. So this is the answer, but if we were to simplify this a couple more steps, that's another way of simplifying it. And now look, we can simplify here a little bit more, which would be I plus 3 over 4, or 3 over 4 plus I. And lastly, what is the domain of the following function? They're not complicated, but there's just so many different functions, and sometimes there's different ways of identifying the domain. Well, this is a square root function. This is a radical function. And when it's a square root function like this, you just simply look inside the square root and take whatever's inside the root here, set it equal to 0, and solve it. So that would give us x equals 2. So what that means is our domain is going to be 2 all the way to positive infinity. And don't forget, I'm sorry, this 2 needs a bracket because it includes 2, and infinities will always get parentheses. I hope this helps. If you need anything else, please let me know.